Have you ever looked out over water and felt like something's missing? Because today we are here in the Peak District at one of Britain's most beautiful reservoirs. But beneath the surface lies the remains of a community that thrived. Schools, churches, homes and graves, all sacrificed so that others could now turn on a tap. In the rugged heart of England, amid the heather-clad moorlands and gritstone ridges of the Peak District, lies the upper Derwent Valley. By the 1930s, the industrial cities of the Midlands, Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, were booming. Two great reservoirs, Howden and Derwent, already glimmered in the valley, but it wasn't enough. In 1935, work began on a third, Ladybower, a marvel of engineering and the largest of them all. As the Second World War broke out, Ladybower's importance became even greater. Water was no longer just a convenience, it was vital to the nation's survival. The project pressed on, even with men away at the front and resources stretched thin. And in 1945, King George VI himself came to open the reservoir. But progress always has a price. For Ladybower to rise, change had to come, and change can be brutal. It's one thing to see a mark on a map erased, it's another to lose the place where you were born, where generations of your family had lived, where every stone and tree is tied to a memory. And yet, the valley's story didn't end with the flood. During the war, these waters played a small but vital role in one of Britain's most daring missions. Those who know the tale of the Dambusters may already feel the connection. We'll return to that later on in this video, but first let's hear all about the lost villages and the people of Ashopton and Derwent. Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Claire and this is The Wanderlust Way. Firstly, let me say thank you to everybody that supports this channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, becoming members or giving super thanks. Honestly, everything that you do helps this channel to grow and it allows me to carry on with adventures like this and share the stories that I find with you. So today we are in the Peak District, in particular at the Ladybower Reservoir, and we're here to uncover the story of those lost villages. Now we've come for a bit of a trek, we've laced up our boots, we've put on the backpack and we've filled up our water bottles. So if you're ready to learn all about the stories of the lost villagers and the people that call this place home, then pull up a chair because that's enough waffle, let's wander. The three linked reservoirs of Howden, Derwent and Ladybower cover over 210 hectares, together forming the largest body of water in the entire Peak District. But not long ago this valley wasn't water at all, it was home. Two small peaceful communities, Derwent and Ashopton, lay cradled in these hills. Derwent was tiny, home to perhaps 50 or so people. Ashopton was slightly larger, with nearly 100 residents, complete with a chapel, inn, post office, pub and shop. These weren't bustling towns, no. It was a quiet rural community where life moved slowly, where generations had put down roots, and where the rhythms of seasons and neighbourly connection shaped every day. You can almost feel it. Slow Sunday mornings, children's voices echoing as they crossed the stone bridge, smoke curling from kitchen chimneys at dusk, neighbours meeting in the lane to exchange news. Then, in 1935, everything began to change. The Derwent Valley Water Board bought, or in many cases compelled, owners to sell their homes and land. By the early 1940s, there was no turning back. The valley would be flooded. Imagine that decision taken out of your hands, that the only place you've ever known was to be marked for erasure, the streets you walked, the school where you learned, the graves of loved ones, all destined to disappear beneath the rising waters. By 1943, demolition had begun. Houses and churches torn down, windows boarded stone by stone, the essence of the valley dismantled. Today, when you look across Ladybower, all you see is tranquility. a Y-shaped lake rimmed by woodland and hills. But if you listen closely, beneath those peaceful ripples lie stories of laughter, steps on cobblestones and lives uprooted. If you're ever able to visit, there are so many beautiful walks around here, and of course today we are doing just that, following the trail of the lost villages. So this is the trail, this is the Ladybower and the Lost Villages trail. So if you park here at the Fairholmes Visitor Centre car park, then you'll see this board and it's got different routes that you can do if you're doing the walk. We have a sign here which says over 30 farms, 1 village and a hamlet were vacated to make way for the valley's 3 reservoirs. So we've got a little bit of text which I'll briefly read to you. Exodus and flood. The visitor centre is named after Fairholmes farm. You can see the remains of the farm below you. Fairholmes was one of many farms in the upper Derwent Valley before the 3 reservoirs were built. Farming families lived and worked all along the valley. Their farms were demolished to protect the purity of the reservoir's water. Standing here at the water's edge, it's really hard not to picture the life that once filled this place. A cluster of stone buildings where the days followed the steady rhythm of rural life. The creak of a gate perhaps, footsteps on the yard, the distant ring of tools or animals at work. Today only fragments remain, obviously, tumbled walls, foundations, softened by moss, time and water. An expert might read these stones like a map, recognising which part belonged to which building. If you know of any of the pieces that you see in this video and you know what they are, do let me know in the comments because I find it absolutely fascinating. For a moment I can stop and I can try to imagine as it once was, a beautiful self-contained world, now stilled and silent beneath the sky. We've got to a bit now where it tells you, there's a little sign and it tells you about the village. So I'm just going to show this to you and read it to you. It says, beneath this water lies Derwent Village, once the busy hub of the valley and an essential river crossing from Sheffield to Manchester. In the 1940s, the valley filled with water. The 10 households of the village said goodbye to their homes and moved to newly built Yorkshire Bridge 2 miles away. Remains of the village remind us of the sacrifice the residents have had to make to provide water for the East Midlands and Sheffield. Now, in very dry years, the ruins of Derwent village emerged from beneath the waters of Ladybower Reservoir. So what remains of the villages today, you might be asking? Well, obviously that all depends on the level of the water in the reservoir. Today we've come down, we are in August now, so obviously we've had a bit of a dry season. We've actually got a hosepipe ban going on at home. There's something here. The geese are grazing. If you stand here, you can actually, it's lovely to sort of imagine the village that once was here. Now, I can highly recommend you coming down here if you are interested in the lost villages of Derwent Valley. There is a few different trails that you can do, walking trails, depending on how much you want to see and what your actual capability is. The weather changes dramatically, so one minute it's glorious sunshine and the next minute it's absolutely chucking it down. It's just starting to rain now, so bring obviously comfortable shoes and maybe your hood and your umbrella. It can be, I'm told it can be quite dangerous as well when the mud gets really soft, but it would be lovely to see a little bit more of this village, although we'd have to wait for the water levels to fall quite a bit. Just been stood over there and I'm now coming back around here. There's a little bit more to be seen. Now, if you've seen some of the videos from when they had the drought, there was quite a lot of the village available to see. However, we're still quite lucky today because there is some things going on here. So it looks like a pipe there. And then it looks like the remains of some buildings here. Whether they were homes, whether they were outbuildings, I'm not too sure. It looks like we've got a floor here. It's actually it's making me feel a bit sad, this. As you come closer to the water's edge, there's quite a lot more to see, but I don't know if it's because it's summertime, we've been able to see a lot more. If you go on YouTube, you can actually see videos from people when they came when there was a really bad drought, and there was a lot more to see. But there's a pipe here. There's another part of a building here. It looks like the corner of a building here. How do you guys feel about this? Does it make you feel sad? Does it make you feel, I don't know, as if you're part of history? There's a brick there. There's a dog poo there. We don't want to see that. Yeah, I think it's quite sad, actually. But it needed to be done, didn't it? We needed the water, and it was part of the war effort as well, I believe.
We're now able to start painting a picture of how Derwent might have looked. But there's something we haven't mentioned yet, something that anchored this community: the Hall. Derwent Hall was built in 1672, a handsome gritstone house with slate roofs. It stood for centuries as a focal point of the valley. Though it had heritage value, it wasn't a listed building. Listing protection didn't exist in the same way back then, and so when the reservoir came, there was nothing in law to save it. By the 1930s, the Hall's purpose had shifted. It became a youth hostel, formally opened in 1932 by the Prince of Wales, who praised the growing trend of tramping holidays and the value of the countryside to working people. For a shilling a night, guests could sleep in its panelled rooms, cook in the basic self-service kitchen, and set out at dawn for the moors. During the Second World War, the Hall's walls echoed with the sounds of children evacuated from the cities. For about a year, it served as their school and shelter, offering them safety in a time of chaos. But even that chapter was short-lived. By 1944, demolition teams arrived. The Hall, like much of the village, would not be saved. But one thing was. Just beyond the Hall stood the ancient Packhorse Bridge, centuries old and classed as an ancient monument. It was dismantled stone by stone and painstakingly rebuilt further up the valley at Slippery Stones in 1959, preserving a link to Derwent's past even as the waters rose. We didn't pass it on this particular walking trail, but perhaps that's reason enough to return another day.
Once nestled beside here was the River Derwent, and there they had a church, St John and St James, which was built in 1757, and it could seat up to 140 people.
Its final service took place on the 17th of March 1943. Locals gathered in the church for one last time. Hymns echoed against the stone, some wept, others stood in stunned silence. The bell was removed and later rehung elsewhere in Derbyshire. Stained glass windows were also salvaged and reused. But what about the graves? What about the people who had been laid here to rest for all eternity?
The bodies that were in the graveyard, they were all dug up and they were interred at a nearby cemetery in Bamford. And the church was demolished, apart from the spire. They decided to leave the spire remaining.
That spire stood alone for a time, an eerie, lonely sentinel rising from the water as the reservoir filled. It became a symbol of everything lost. But in December 1947, it too was destroyed, dynamited, for safety reasons. Some say the real reason was psychological. It was just too painful to leave it there. There's lots of people that lived in this community. I'm told that there was a remarkable TV show that aired in 1966 where they interviewed some of the residents that once lived here that called this place home.
Among them was Miss Nellie Thorpe, who ran a B&B in Ashopton. She spoke with gentle pride of the visitors she used to serve tea to, and how surreal it felt telling them the village would soon be gone. Then there was Miss Hetty Bingham, a teacher from Derwent, who recalled the final school day with tears in her eyes. Her pupils packed away their books for the last time, knowing they'd never return. Those voices, soft Derbyshire accents, filled with memory and ache, remind us this wasn't just a planning decision, it was people's lives.
I would absolutely love to know more about the people that once lived here. So if you know of anybody, if you're watching this video today and you can think of anybody that you know from past that once lived in Derwent or in the Ashopton, then please do let me know in the comments, because I would love to hear their stories too. Further down the reservoir to the southern end, you will get to the Ashopton Viaduct. Now this is the marker that you've reached the place where Ashopton village once lay.
Unlike Derwent, Ashopton was busier, a farming village built along the main road between Sheffield and Glossop. It had a Methodist chapel, a general store, a garage, and even its own wool fair every July.
The last hymn sung at that church service was "The Days Dying in the West." Now this wasn't just a hymn, it was a eulogy, and not just for the church, for the entire village itself.
Unlike Derwent, the remains of Ashopton have never resurfaced, lost below the silt. Once the floodwaters rose, it vanished completely, no spire breaking the surface, no fragments revealed in times of drought. In the years before it was lost, Ashopton was home to around 100 residents. Life here revolved around small trades, farming the surrounding land and welcoming passing travellers to the village inn. That pub was a point of pride, I'm told. One former villager later remarked that when they drowned Ashopton, they also drowned one of the best pubs in the area. By the early 1940s, the end was certain. Homes were emptied, the last pints poured, and by 1945 the rising waters swallowed every street. Today Ashopton survives only as a name on the road signs, while the rest lies hidden far below the reservoir's still surface.
There's no official memorial to the loss of Derwent. However, there is this memorial cross which commemorates 10 of the lives of the men that were lost from the village during World War I. It was originally in the village and they have moved it here to where it now remains. Beautifully, actually, it now remains overlooking, let me show you, overlooking the lake. This is the view from the memorial cross, directly opposite the village where it once stood. You could say that this is the last piece of Derwent. It's the last piece of the village that's still here. Now there are, if my resources tell me correctly, there are some other small parts of Derwent village that were salvaged, and they are in various places nearby. I think there's some of the stained glass windows from the church. And I think the church bell as well is somewhere. I think that was salvaged too. If you know of any pieces of Derwent village or Ashopton in the surrounding area, if you've come across any on your travels, in any museums or in any churches or anything like that around the country, please let me know in the comments, because it would be lovely to see some bits of this, what was once this village.
Now before we wrap this up, I did promise you not just lost villages, but a connection to World War II, and maybe, just maybe, something a little bit paranormal.
There is one other very important thing about this reservoir, and that it is its history to World War II, because it was here that the Dambusters, the 617 Squadron, which I think we've mentioned on previous airfield videos, they practiced for the Dambusters raid here at this reservoir, because it was very, very similar to the one in Germany that they were targeting on Operation Chastise.
With 3 vast reservoirs and steep-sided valleys, the Upper Derwent was the perfect double for Germany's Ruhr dams. Here 617 Squadron perfected the daring low-level runs for Barnes-Wallis's legendary bouncing bomb.
Now, what's spooky about this is that many people, even though it's a long time ago, many people have said that they have seen ghostly Lancasters flying across the sky here. Is it the Dambusters returning to complete the mission once again? So that's it for this episode. Thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been Claire. This has been The Wanderlust Way. If you have your own stories to share about this topic, then please do comment below. I always read every single one and I will comment back. If you want to stick around, we're going to stick around in the Peak District for a little bit longer, because next week we have a ghostly adventure to bring you on. So I know some of you will enjoy that one. So that is it. If you're ready for another adventure, then I will be back again next week, Sunday morning at 10 AM.